That's alright, Mama. That's alright with you. That's alright, Mama. And just any way you do. That's alright. That's alright. That's alright now, Mama. Any way you do. Come on, now. Can you feel the pain?
That's cool. Yeah.
Into him now. About this new world. Ain't no train. Papa's got a brand new eye. Purple haze in my brain. Lately things just don't seem the same. Acting funny and I don't know why. Excuse me while I kiss the sky.
Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Matthew Spear, Olivia Spear, and Pastor Jack Gill all in the house tonight. Can't wait to bring it to you. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Should be a cornucopia of thought as we get into religion, military, the calling, and all other things in between. This will be a fun evening. So please make sure you share this out to Twitter, Rumble, everywhere else. Would love to get a bunch of people on. Mel, if you could saturate Twitter, I would appreciate it. We are taking donations tonight. Remember, goal is 300, but we want to overdrive big time. We'll tell you why at the end. You go to thedumbshow.com/donate. You can use PayPal. You can use your credit card. You can even send in a check. The only thing that we don't take are rubles. We just don't do it. Everything else, we'll find a way. This is going to be a fun one. Please, please stand by. The BRBC folks who are in the audience tonight watching, which I know there are a few of you, welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. We will be PG-13 tonight. This is family-orientated content this evening. We'll be taking some phone calls too. If you have questions for Pastor Jack Gill, he is the man. You're definitely going to want to go ahead and ask him.
Send them to me.
Send him, put a Q on it in chat. Just type the letter Q and then ask your question. We'll get to it. We're on the 10-second countdown. We'll be back in 3.5 minutes. Let's rock and roll, folks. This is probably the most excited I have been for a show. We'll see what you think about it. Let's go. See you in 3.5.
Do you want the truth? Are you tired of being so confused? You feel like you're more fucked up than the lies on the evening news? Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss and make up for the party ends. Agree or disagree, stop unfriend me. 'Cause I'm everything you want, damn sure what you need. I won't tell no lies, back up all the facts with truth. And if you can't get down with that, you
Before we get started, just to
When you get a sec, check out my buddy Matthew Spear over there at the Dumb Show. Dumbshow.com. Get to see people like yours truly right here. Maybe that's a reason for you to not check it out. But check it out anyway. There's a lot of people better than me on there that's a lot better stories. But check them out, dumbshow.com. Matt, take care, buddy. God bless you, everyone.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
What is going on, everybody? Of course, it wouldn't be a day that ends with Y unless I have something to write down and share with you. And it's ceremonial and something that we've kind of grown accustomed to is when we have a guest on, I write a bio about them and tell you all about them. So basically, they have nothing to say. So we get them really uncomfortable as soon as we get to them. Pastor Jack Gill serves as the senior pastor of Blue Ridge Bible Church in Purcellville, Virginia, where he leads a congregation committed to knowing God and loving Him more through the steady ministry of the Word. His path to the pulpit began far from Loudoun County. Raised in North Texas in a strong Christian family, he came to faith at a young age and was shaped by discipleship in the local church, a pattern that continues to drive his shepherding today. Now, a lot of this is from memory, Pastor Jack, so if I get it wrong, just make sure to call me out.
Oh, you're good.
After college, Jack married his wife, Karen, and began a season of military service as a naval aviator. When his active flying career concluded, he transitioned to commercial aviation as a pilot for United Airlines. A transfer to Dulles brought the Gill family to Western Loudoun, where they quickly plugged into the Blue Ridge Bible Church and began serving in multiple ministries. In 2003, sensing the Lord's call, Jack accepted a role as an associate pastor, beginning what he often calls his journey from cockpit to pulpit. He was affirmed as senior pastor in 2007. Jack's formal theological training includes graduate studies at Dallas Theological Seminary. That education, coupled with decades of practical ministry, anchors his preaching in careful exposition and a high view of Scripture. He maintains an unwavering confidence in God's design for the local church to cultivate gospel, change lives, and a conviction evident in his long tenure and consistent pulpit ministry at BRBC. Jack's preaching and teaching span a wide range of biblical themes. His sermons appear in the church's archive across many years, including messages such as The Mentor in Psalm 119 in 2017 and A Prayer, Be Set Apart in 2025 on Thessalonians 5. These entries illustrate both his longevity in the pulpit and his steady emphasis on personal holiness, prayer, and practical discipleship. Beyond the platform, Jack is a husband, father, and grandfather who views his family as one of God's greatest blessings. He and Karen make their home in Virginia. They have 3 adult children and in recent years have celebrated the arrival of 6. Let me say that again, 6 grandchildren. Those family roots in his early career in aviation add a grounded, real-world perspective to his pastoral care and counseling. Blue Ridge Bible Church describes itself as an evangelical, non-denominational church with solid theological roots that seeks to help people know God better and love Him more. Jack's leadership reflects that mission through his expository, say that twice, preaching, life group discipleship, multi-generational ministry, and an emphasis on prayer and service. Week by week, his ministry continues to call people to follow Christ with clarity, humility, and hope. It is my absolute honor to bring you Pastor Jack Gill onto the Don't Unfriend Me show. Please give him a warm welcome. Pastor Gill, welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show, sir.
Hey, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
It's a real pleasure. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's a good thing, man. I'm excited to have you here. Now, have you ever done a podcast before?
No.
Oh, it's your first time.
It is. This is it.
All right. Well, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to get this obviously sent out to as many people as we can. We're going to get a whole bunch of people on. Folks, phone lines are not open yet, but we do have availability with questions and everything else, and we've got plenty ourselves. So I guess the first thing that I wanted to ask when you came on, and we had a really strong conversation that I wish we could have recorded a couple of weeks ago, and I wish we could have recorded it, but we'll try to replicate tonight. Can you walk us through what I missed? Like the thing that's not on the resume that you would want people to know about you first and foremost when it comes to what you do now and how you connect with the Lord?
Well, there's one thing that I would add, and that was when you mentioned the grandchildren. It's actually been more since that was written and recorded. So we have a total,
Really?
well, I say we have 8. One just happens to be in heaven, but we've still got 7 with us.
That's right.
So
that's right. Okay. That's
we've been really blessed.
Well, some of the bio was research, and trust me, if that's the only thing we got wrong,
You did great.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it. We try. The CIA wasn't available, so we had to go off the cuff. So going back to the question, what would you want people to know outside of that?
That's a good question. I think mainly at the end of the day, Matt, I think every pastor is going to be the same in this regard. The first thing they wonder is, how in the world did I get put into this place? Because, I know all the things about me that you don't know. And so you begin to wonder, okay, God, why would you even call on me to do something like this? It's not necessarily something that I eagerly pursued. It was kind of something that came at me over time. Early on, when I was in college, I'd had no clue what it was that I'd be doing for a living, for work. And as I slowly got involved in classes, I just bounced from major to major.
Right.
And then about halfway through, I figured, I think I want to fly. I think I want to do this for the Navy. And then,
was it Navy? There was no Air Force. It was Navy.
Actually, it was Air Force initially.
Why? Why? What made you go Navy? Oceans or land, terra firma.
Well, actually, what happened was I started by pursuing officer ROTC with the Air Force. And I went to a summer camp, and it was great. The thing that they put on there was fantastic. And although I will tease and mock all my Air Force friends, I have the highest respect for them too. But it was a great camp, but I got exposed to a lot of stuff. And one of the things is I was like everybody else. We want to fly jets. We want to fly fighters. And I was sort of disillusioned with how little they said they got to fly. It was like, okay. So as time went on, I encountered some folks that were involved with the Navy, and I asked them, and the hour comparison was vastly higher. And so that's when I said, okay, then I got to go Navy.
Right.
Turns out everything I had was a complete misunderstanding. So there wasn't really that one was doing more. This is just what I thought as I was going through.
Right. Well, like the reality is much different once we're in.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I got in, and the Navy had a program at that time. And it was, you go into their officer candidate school halfway between your junior and senior year of college. And you go through half of it. Go back, get your degree, then you come back, you finish, and then they throw you right into flight school.
Oh, wow.
And it was great because I got done. When was it? In May. I graduated in May, and then come August, September, I was already in flight school. So it was lightning fast. And at that time, that was really fast.
Was that was that completely nerve-wracking for you, how quickly it was?
No.
Okay.
No.
You were ready. You just like put me up there. Let's go.
I'm 22, man. It's
your hair is on fire.
It's
like the first time I jumped. I know.
You don't even think about stuff like that.
I agree with you. Okay.
So anyway, I go in, and it was great. I loved my whole time in the Navy. The only reason why I didn't continue in the Navy was because at the end of my second tour, they told me that, hey, here's what we need. They were downsizing a lot, which meant, or they had been previously in the previous years, and now they were really ramping up. So the detailer calls me and says, hey, man, name your jet, name your coast, you got it. What do you want?
Isn't that is that not empowering when you, because I got choice of duty station, and it's like the coolest thing in the world. Like, I want to go wherever I want to go and put it in a map and just pick, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great feeling.
Yeah, it is. So I'm listening to this, but then I thought, okay, but I always know there's a catch when you get something that good.
Always.
So I said, and I just said it that way. I said, okay, that sounds great. what's the catch? And he said, well, we're going to need you to sign up for back-to-back sea tours. So I was like, okay, that means I got to go get training, and then I'm going to be gone for a number of years. But really, this is what put it in perspective. I said, my oldest is 3 years old. I'll see him again when he's 11.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. That was easy. So I just knew, get out. And then I thought I would try some business, and I went into business with somebody trying to build houses for a year. But the whole time, Matt, my thought is this. My whole life is meant to be a ministry, a service unto God. And so I didn't feel like that call was to necessarily be in a ministry role. I felt like I do that in the workforce. In fact, that was a part of the reason, too, I got excited about the Navy, because I thought, well, I'll minister to the masses on the ship. Turns out that didn't work out that way either. But my whole point is just that I just felt like no matter where it is, that's my ministry. Yeah. And I'm called to be not in the church serving at that role. I'm just called to be a servant. So I went into business, and then I went into, that didn't work out well for me at all. I learned real quick, I am not that kind of an independent businessman. Hats off to those who are and who do very well. And then I got back, I started looking back into aviation. So I said, all right, let's go for airlines. Well, I'd been out of the cockpit for a year. Good luck getting into the airlines if you don't have seat time for a year. Right. So then I had to make my move towards the commuters. And I kid you not, I think I was in the commuter for 2 months, and then I got a call from a major airline, from United. And United hired me, but they were backed up, so I had to sit for a year. So I did that, flew commuters for a year, and then United picked me up, and I went in there. So it was great. I loved it. And then 9/11 happened. And I just remember at the time thinking, seniority-wise, I was safe. I wasn't going to get furloughed. But it did make me start asking, well, what would happen if I did get furloughed? You know, what is it that I would do? What would I go to? And I began to think about, I think it would just be something involving ministry. And that was very different than anything else that was a different way of thinking than I'd ever had before. And so
what do you think made that? I mean, you're a pilot, your hair's on fire, you know, you've got the aviator sunglasses and the leather jacket, right? And you're doing all that Top Gun stuff. Yeah. What do you think? That's a huge turnabout, is it not? Isn't that a 180, even though you had the faith before you went in?
It was. Let me come back to that. Okay. Because I have a comment about that.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So anyway, I head out and I do the airline thing, and while I'm there, I'm asking myself, is there something else I would do different? And then it was just sort of like, I don't know that I can really put my finger on it. I didn't have this moment where it's just kind of like, you know, lights are on. Hey, God says go here. Rather, instead, it was just sort of like I'm leaning this way. So I began looking into that, and I thought maybe God would have me go back into the military as a chaplain, and I would serve that way. So I began looking at everything. I was working on, you know, how do I get the degree? What all do I need to make happen? And then I did the classic thing where I did all the work, and then I got counsel. And the counsel that I got was from my then pastor, and he listened to everything I said. And he said, now, let me ask something, Jack. Why'd you get out of the Navy? I said, well, I was going to be gone all the time. He goes, I see. He goes, so what you're suggesting is now you're going to spend the next 4 years in seminary while you're working part-time to put yourself through this, and then you're going to end it all with then being on the road and being out again.
Right.
I was kind of like, you know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it sounds like a blinding flash of the obvious.
Right,
but that's what I needed. And so it's kind of like, you know what, I'll just put that on the shelf. I enjoy the airlines. I'm not being run out. I'll stick with it. Well, no sooner did all that happened, and a couple months went by, and our church was looking for an associate pastor, and they hired one, but then, you know, at the last minute, he said, I can't afford to move up here. So he dropped out. And the church then came to the whole congregation and said, hey, we're looking at anything. And, you know, it was kind of like, we'll look at anybody and anything. And I remember my wife and I kind of looking at each other, thinking about this. And so we went home, we prayed about it, we thought about it. And then I went and I talked with the pastor. And when I got my hold of him, I said, listen, I got a job. I don't need for this role. I don't need to take this position in terms of desperation or anything like that. And I'm not going to leave the church if you say no. But if I applied, would I be considered? And he said, absolutely, you'd be considered. And that surprised me. I did not know that he would necessarily say that. Mm-hmm. So then Karen and I got together, and Karen, my wife, and we got together, and we were thinking about this and praying about it. And so we said, okay, then, it's not like I had this moment where it's kind of like God told me, you have to absolutely do this, or got some sort of mystical event. It was just more of a leaning, and I felt like, okay, I've been equipped for this. God has made the provision for it. It's sort of the proverbial doors just continue to open. Nothing's really been closed. And moved forward and haven't looked back since.
Is Karen watching tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she is?
Oh, you know it.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
And the entire church. Talk about you're supposed to be the one that's under pressure. Now I feel like I'm under pressure. Want to say thank you for a donation that just came in. CJ Jenkins donated $51.99. It's going to be a great show tonight. Let's go, dummies. Let's make Matthew proud. You guys always make me proud. Come on. The dummies, just so you understand, don't unfriend me. It was long in the tooth, the Don't Unfriend Me show with Matt Spear. It got a little long saying it. So Barstool Sports has the Stoolies, and, everyone has their little acronyms and names for their people. The Cheeseheads for Green Bay Packers and everything else. So Don't Unfriend Me got taken down the DUM, and somebody's like, well, why don't we call it the Dumb Show? Because we were being called Nazis and deplorables and all these other horrible things. And we're like, well, dumb is kind of innocuous. And it's the only one they haven't really called us. So let's go ahead and just call it the Dumb Show. And then Dumb Show turned into Dummies. And they call themselves the Dummies. And I've been asked by producers who want to put us on the air, and they're like, do you really call your people dumb? And I said, first of all, dumb is with a B. Anyway, so I want to say thank you very much, CJ, for the donations. Second, I want to go into this real quick. Is when we first stepped foot into the church, it was very much like, I don't know, Buckner walking into Shea. Like I felt it was crazy for me because it had been almost 40 years since I had stepped foot in a church, and the only other time I had really been in any type of holy environment or spiritual environment was in Israel or in the hospital, and going down and praying for a friend or whatever, and
our wedding,
in our wedding. Sorry, baby. Just that other time.
Totally, I can totally tell why you forgot that day. Totally unimportant.
Whatever that was. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I can't remember the date. It was sometime. So I going back in was crazy, and I think we all have our own stories. And for Hayden and Olivia, and we walked in, and the level of confidence that it takes to do that, I'm aware. Like it's strangers. You weren't invited by anybody, and we knew. But I think that was also something that Pastor Jack recognized and called us out for. But we were, unbeknownst to us, just who we are. We walk in, we're confident people, and we're like, we're coming to church. We're ready to dive in. But what had happened was shortly after is with Charlie Kirk, and it was a very emotional time for me. And I was really, of course, the moment that I decide to start going back to church, that's a Job moment for me, because I think Charlie Kirk, someone who I loved and adored, and although didn't agree with everything he said, I don't think it needs to be qualified, but it was emotional for Olivia and I. We had to report it. We watched it. I told you where he was in the first 3 minutes, that I did not see him surviving that. And that's just based on experience. And it was a very emotional time. So I walk into church and I'm like, I really hope that this pastor, who I hardly know, is going to talk about Charlie Kirk. So I decided to approach him and look at him and say, hey, just wondering if we're going to talk and pray for Charlie today. And his answer, which I'm not going to tell you until I show you this, is why I said, okay, this is my guy. Because during a time where it would be very easy to placate me and give me what I wanted so I could come back, he told me not what I wanted to hear, but what I needed to hear. And then I not only did he tell me that, and I know I'm talking about you like you're not here, but just this is going to work because it's going to get emotional, is then spoke to me and others to not apologize for his decision not to make it the central focus of the sermon, but to say, I recognize, and I know this is important, and I'm not a buffoon, but here's why we're going to go here. And it was beautiful. And I was so happy that when I went to the website that I could steal it from you guys, because I know how to do that, and play it today. So this is what we're going to do, is we're going to show this to you, and then we're going to come back and talk about that, because I think it was my introduction to Pastor Gill, and I want you to kind of have the same experience. So here's the video, and here's the introduction. Enjoy this. I got to change the audio. See, Liv? I remembered. Uh-huh.
Oh, you're growing. It only took 5 years.
Okay. You know what? I know. I'm working on it. See if I can get in there. And see if I can get the audio to work.
I got to address the elephant in the room, and that is what you've already heard prayed for, what so many of you have been talking about, what's on your mind in light of the things that have occurred in this previous week. In this previous week, it feels a little bit closer, and it feels closer because in the Colorado school shooting, we have people in this church who had grandchildren in that school. They came out safe, but all of a sudden it feels a lot closer, doesn't it? And there are people in this room that personally knew Charlie Kirk, and it feels a whole lot closer in every regard. What do we do with this? And when I say that, I don't mean from a political viewpoint. I mean, what do we do when we find what we see as the innocent, those who should not have received what they received, as having received that? What do we do with that? I'm not using this as a shameless plug. I am saying next week we're going to begin looking at the book of Job. And Job is all about how do you deal with a just and a holy God when in the world there's all kinds of injustices and unholy things that are occurring. How do we reconcile this? How do we deal with this? And we're going to spend probably the next 12, 13 weeks going through Job, looking at some of these issues and dealing with this. So I'm not going to deal with it necessarily today. As I mentioned, we're going to save that for next week. This week, what are we going to do? Well, we're just going to continue to pray for our nation, like Tim just did. We're going to continue to pray that God would somehow use the events of this past week to have people begin to look up instead of out. What's out is not working. There's only one that will work, and that is the one who can fix all things. That's God himself. So as we continue to do so, that needs to be our prayer, and that needs to be where our hearts go. So with that, let me ask you to take your Bibles out and join me as we go back to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5.
Now, if I could play this whole darn thing, I would, because we talked about it in the car for I don't know how long, and how every single person felt like you were speaking to us. And what's interesting is I appreciate the recognition. I know there's probably multiple people who had either met Charlie or knew Charlie, but also Evergreen Church. I grew up outside when I left California. I was right next to that church. I dated Jennifer Beauregard, who went to that school. I went to the dance there. I voted for the first time ever in that high school as well. So there's so much history there. When you do that, do you do it on purpose, or do you just have a happy, fortuitous accident? Because I think most people will tell you that when you speak, it feels like you're speaking to them. I would just love to get your thoughts on that in that day.
No, I do have thoughts on that. And the reason I do is because, having grown up in church, I've felt the exact same thing whenever I've listened to other people preach. When I was in high school in particular, I remember telling my dad, I feel like every single week this guy is talking only to me. And when I look back on that, I just realized that it had nothing to do with that guy. He was a really good preacher and really gifted. But at the end of the day, all he was doing was he was just doing what God called him to do. And then God would take that and speak to individuals. So this is, it doesn't surprise me. But I also know that it really has, you'll know what I mean when I say this. It really has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the fact that when people are sensitive to God and his word, His word is living and active, the Bible says, and it will speak to them.
Hmm.
And it will meet them where they are. It'll convict them where they need to be convicted. It will encourage them where they need to be encouraged. But so I know what you speak of because I've experienced it myself.
Hmm. And
I just think that's it's a living God that we serve. And the living God speaks to us where we are. I got a great little story for you about that.
Yeah.
In the New Testament, there's a story about Jesus.
Okay.
And he's going and he's feeding the crowds, and it says that there's 5,000 men, not including the women and the children. It's 5,000 people that need to be fed. And he'd been ministering to them all day, and at the end of the day, he looks at his disciples and he says, the disciples come to him. They say, hey, they're hungry. Let's send them away. And Jesus says, no, how about instead you give them something to eat? And they said, are you kidding? You look at the size of this crowd. There's not nearly enough people, not enough food for this many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, well, what do you have? And then one of the disciples comes and says, well, here's a little boy, and he has 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And he hands it to the Lord. And the Lord takes that, and he multiplies it and gives it to each one of them, and then they go out and begin feeding the crowds. And I feel like that's the way preaching is. You've got Jesus who takes his word, and he gives it to each preacher, each minister who's going to be faithful with that word. And then that preacher goes out, and he just hands it off. He feeds the individuals that are put in his path. Hmm. And when that happens, it's a God thing. It's not so much a preacher thing. It is entirely him taking his word and feeding people, meeting them right where they need to be. And I remember hearing somebody else talk about that story, and he says, the problem with my 5 loaves and 2 fish is they often feel pretty greasy. And there's a lot of truth to that. You walk out of the pulpit sometimes and you go, what was that?
Right.
But you just offer it up, and you leave it with God, and he takes it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about looking up, I mean, it's almost like you were a prognosticator. We saw, obviously, over the last 30 years, the decline of Christianity in the United States from a strong 91% of people believing in something to, falling into the 71, 73s. And then the outlook by 2030, 2050, that Christianity could be a minority religion in the United States. And then you see Bible sales that are at 370% increase, and visits to churches now are through the roof, 3,000% somewhat increase since Charlie died. It's amazing how consistent that message was with the reality that took place shortly afterwards. And it was a very, very good day. And it allowed us to feel like we weren't in control. So, and that is something that over 40 years of being away, the illusion of control was all I had. And to step away from that was a leap of faith, so to speak. Yeah. Liv, I know we have some questions. Did you have a chance to take a look at some of those? And if not, I can pop one up real quick.
Oh, from viewers or from me?
Yeah, you or viewers. We've got both. And I wanted to go into something else, but do you have one for you or viewers?
Yeah.
Go.
I've got one for me.
Okay, go.
How did your time in the military impact your faith?
Oh, great question. It affected it tremendously. And the reason I would say that is because of the people that God just continued to put in my path. Now, I had a very, very unusual track in the military, because my first duty station, instead of sending me to the ship, they sent me to Hawaii, shore-based. They'll throw me in that briar patch. But that was pretty amazing. But through that, we found a really good church. We found all these people that were there in the local area that we just really grew with and bonded with. And so it was just a time where we were involved with a lot of people and with a really solid church that had a great ministry. And so I feel like we really grew. And then whenever I would go into the office, I mean, to many degrees, it was kind of like anybody else that would go into any office, whether it's civilian or it's military. You're with all different walks and kinds of people. And so you're going to be yourself, and you're going to live out, you try to live out with integrity your life. And and then just allow God to continue to open up opportunities for you to love on people, minister to people, befriend people. One of the things I feel like God's really provided for us is never see people as projects. They're not. They're not your project. And I think a lot of times when we talk about church and the church work, all of a sudden we begin to think in terms of, well, what are we going to do with people, and how are we going to, in some cases, convert them, or how are we in some cases going to just make their lives better? And certainly you want to present the opportunities that you can, but at the end of the day, all that stuff is God's job. So people are never going to be your project. They're just going to be individuals that you love. And we did that in the military. And then the next duty station that I had, it was the exact same scenario. We're living in Florida, shore-based once again. And it was great. But in terms of did the military do something different to me that maybe civilian life would not have provided? And I don't think it did. It was just the exact, people are people, and work is work. And you're always trying to accomplish the same things in both.
Leroy is super excited to talk to you. He is as much of as an aviation enthusiast as I am. He is too, and he's good. He's really good. But you have to be when you're in intel. That you've got to pretty much know every single weapon system on the planet for every single military, and be able to tell at a moment's notice what it does and how it works. Folks, I know a lot of people are asking, how do we follow the church? It's real simple. Right down here, Pastor Jack Gill at the Blue Ridge Bible Church, BRBC. And what's funny is that my rugby club was BRCC, the Blue Ridge Rugby Club. So I called it that, and he's like, that's not the name. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's a Freudian slip. You can go to brbible.org. Gotta love .org, because it gets really simple when it comes down to the URL. So BR Bible. You can go at 10:15 and witness an amazing sermon, beautiful music, congregation that's vastly involved. And if you're looking to hear the word of God with a lot of honesty, I mean, Job has been heavy. I walk out of that church and I'm like, wow. And I even watched it during the football game with Ethan that we didn't go, and I'm sorry. But you can go and follow along, and that's what I want to encourage people to do. I was asked by several people, why do you want Pastor Jack on? I don't want you to join the church. I don't want you to give to the church. That's up to you later, but I want you to hear the word. And what it's done for me and my family has just been incredible. It has brought us closer together. It has calmed me down in my mind that can get frustrated sometimes. And I know Olivia has her testimony of what it's done for her. So we want you to feel that, and it's community, it's love, it's acceptance, and it's truth, and that's a gift. So I want you to feel it. So you can take a look and call anytime you want. Just type in the URL, go on your phone. There's an app also you can go to and call and say hello. Right? Visit. It's that simple. It's really easy. Liv, questions in the audience?
Yes, Carrie Spricks would like to know what you and your family like to do for fun and relaxation.
Fun and relaxation. Well, my wife and I, we're empty nesters now.
Yeah.
And so what the first answer is going to be. You heard how many grandkids we got. It's always going to be any time, any chance we get to be around them, we are taking them up on it. And we've had a lot of great opportunities for that. It's been wonderful. We're both readers, and so we enjoy reading quite a bit. I enjoy exercise. It's kind of funny. We were working out this morning. My wife's like, do you like exercise? Because I don't think I do. But, I like it. I don't know that she does so much. But one of the things, we haven't done it so much this past year, but I've really enjoyed doing with her is I do have a motorcycle, and this is the motorcycle mecca, because it's beautiful out
the roads
here.
are crazy.
Oh, it's unreal.
Beautiful. What do you have? Are you a panhead guy?
No.
Oh.
No.
What are you then?
No, I have a Yamaha T7.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know the difference. I just like the panhead. If I was going to get one, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, and those are big.
Big dude.
Yeah. Yeah. But it'd be appropriate. You're right. But no, I love it whenever we can get on and we can just ride around, because the scenery is just unbelievable. And it's not like fast roads, and it's not even that dangerous roads when we go around in the countryside. So we enjoy that kind of thing together.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wear a helmet.
Always.
Wear a helmet.
Always.
So we get a little heavier here. See, I know some of the
Thank you,
answers.
Kimberly. Appreciate it.
Kimmy, thank
She
you.
says, looking forward to joining this Sunday bright and early. So looks like
I
she'll
would
join us.
listen. I would love to have you all there. I'm not kidding. And 60,000 people will see this in the next week or two. And if you watch this show for anything, I'd rather have you go to church. If you haven't gone back, do it, and do yourself the favor, because I'm telling you, it's just you'll. I just want you to experience yourself. You'll feel it. This is heavy. And I've asked you a lot of this stuff, and I know most of this stuff. Go ahead, honey.
Thank you, Patricia. I almost said Patricia.
It's okay.
Patricia, thank you so much.
Patricia, good. Thank you, hon. We appreciate you. 3140. I know the answer to some of these because we had a good talk, but I'm going to do it anyway. Has your faith ever been tested to the point of breaking?
I don't recall ever being in a position where I thought I might lose my faith. I have been certainly have been tested in certain ways and in different ways, but most of the difficulties that I feel like I've experienced in life has been walking with other people who've gone through a tremendous amount. This past year, we went through. It's almost like our first real tragedy, difficulty personally. Our son and his wife were pregnant, and the baby that they had a very rare disorder in that he basically was born without a brain. He only had a brain stem, which meant his heartbeat would work and he would still breathe, but within, hours or days of being born, he wasn't gonna live. And so sure enough, that's what happened. He was born. We all got to see him. We all got to hold him. We all got to love on him for a little bit. And then, the next morning he was gone. But even something as difficult as that was, God's just shown himself so faithful to us, even in tragedy. And so I don't know that I've ever necessarily been through I think I'm going to lose my faith moment. Now, I do remember when I was in like high school and so forth, I really questioned, is the reality of God?
Right.
Is he who he is? Does he even exist? How do I make sense of all these things? And by the way, how do I know I don't lose my own salvation? It's a lot of questions that I went through in that season of my life. And again, God was faithful, sent a lot of good people in my path, and helped me as I worked through and processed those things. And ultimately, my faith did become my own, because you read in my bio, I grew up in a Christian home and a church, and I was exposed to this. But I'll tell you what, I'm one of those people who I can look back and I see the way my parents lived out their faith. It was the most logical thing in the world to continue, because I got to experience and see all the blessings that they had in their life. And just really all the things that we could be delivered from because of what we'd seen and living that out. So long-winded way of basically saying, no, never came to a place where I thought I might lose my faith, but certainly has been stretched and tested, usually in times of tragedy. Watching other people go through extreme difficulties, that's another one it's hard. And I'd be lying if I still don't sometimes just pray, God, I don't get it. I don't get what you're doing. I don't get what's happening here. I really don't understand this.
How do you reconcile God's plan when you're faced with human suffering? It's probably a question that every single person of faith has to go through multiple times.
Yeah.
But how do you reconcile that with yourself, and how do you tell your parishioners the same? And I know the answer, but this was really a good one when you answered it before, so I'm going to set you up with that.
Well, first of all, I think one of the biggest things is to realize that God is someone who was not averse to suffering. When we see Jesus and he goes to the cross, he embraced all of suffering. He embraced our suffering. And it was for nothing that he had done. He did not deserve that cross. He had never done anything wrong. He went to the cross because he was in full submission to the Father, who said, let me put the sins of the world on you, and you being the second person of the triune God. And then when he did that, he took all that on himself. And so in so doing, one of the side effects that comes about as a result of that is when I look at God, I just know you do get the idea that you do understand suffering because you yourself have been through it. And God the Father went through that, God the Son. I've heard it said when it comes to our salvation, God gave the only thing that could cost him anything, and it cost him everything. And that was in his Son. But when he did die and paid that price for us, then at that point, he took on a glory. And what we find is a God who not only loves us, a God who not only will take our ultimate sufferings away, and a God that would draw us near to himself, such that, if we get to a place where I don't understand and I don't get it, I love him enough, and I know that he loves me enough that I can say, even though I don't get it, I trust you. I trust you. And that's the best I got.
It was great when we were talking about Job, and you're like, it'll probably make more sense. And because when we talked, it was just, I think we just went through and I don't know the chapter and verse. I apologize. I'm still working on it. But there's just really the first section, the introduction to Job. And I was just like, wow, he went through a lot. And you're like, well, it gets heavier. And I was like, by week 5, I was, whoa, like, I had no idea what he went through. Liv, question from the audience or from you. And if you want to put that in, I can go ahead while you're getting that ready. Want to say thank you to Carrie Spricks 5. Carrie, those $5 and $1 donations, they mean the world to me, because it tells me that you're given something that is, it just means the world to me. We get donations that are $50, $100, $1,000. I mean, we've seen it all. It's those 1 and 5s, because that's what you have. And for you to do that, it means the world to me. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Did you have one? If not, I've got one.
I've got one.
Okay, go for it.
How long have you and Karen been married? And
that's a good one.
how and when did you meet?
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that's a good one.
And an easy one. We've been married since 1989. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 36 years.
Wow. Good for you.
How do we meet? It's kind of a funny story. I was rooming with 5 other guys at the time. And you got to remember, this is 1986. So the biggest technology at that time was a VCR. One of my roommates was a grad student. He's the only one that had a little bit of money, and he owned a VCR. And so we had a rule of thumb, and that is on Friday night, you invited every single girl you know over to watch a movie. And we figured, if you ask 100, 5 will at least show up.
Right.
So it was kind of go with the max. And I had a brand new roommate, and he was, and so what? Asked him to do the same thing. Every girl invite them over, and we'll just go from there. Well, he knew my wife. And so he invited her and her 3 roommates, and out of the 4 of them, only my wife and her best friend showed up. And it's kind of interesting because, we had this, it was a fun night. I remember meeting them. At that age, I was just a goofball, and probably not my finest moment in revealing who I am. When she showed up that night, we all just got a little, like you do when you're 20 years old.
No, I don't know, Pastor.
Yeah, right.
Can you please expound?
Elaborate.
Can you go on? We don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But anyway, and then I had a very good friend, and he told me, hey man, I think you should ask Karen out. And I just remember thinking, here's the deal. I'm not afraid of taking a risk, but when I know the answer is going to be no, I'm not going there, because I just felt like here's where I am. She's way up here. No, it's just never going to happen. So he just kept pushing me and prodding me. And so finally one day I asked her out, mm-hmm. and I thought she was really cute. I thought she was really sweet, really nice. And so I asked her out, and from the rest is history, as they say.
That's awesome.
So we saw each other for, 2 years. We dated for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, that's a good time. I mean, 2 years we lived in sin a little longer, but we got there, and it's been It's amazing when you look back at
How
the
long,
time.
how long have you been married?
26.
We've been married for
26.
23.
26. We've lived, it's been together. It's
We've
26.
been together for almost
we
27.
we were common law in 6 months. It's 23, 26 together, 3 living in sin, but 26.
Well, 26. That is great. Because
Yeah.
what I don't know what the latest national average was. I think the last time I heard
3.
Okay, I was going to say 2 or 3.
It's
It
bad.
was low.
It's pretty
bad.
low.
So
It's
you've
bad.
got that beat 13 times or something like that.
Yeah, and
if it's 2 years.
if we walk through the history of who I was before I met my wife, she was my salvation
Mm.
because I was not on a good path, and I was on a horrible path,
Mm.
and she taught me how to grow up, and so without that, like they always say, behind a good man is a good woman. Behind a man is a good woman, and I truly believe that, and I think marriage is the single-handedly the most important thing you can do besides having children in this life of ours. And it's so absolutely crucial today. We're not going to get into geopolitics, but we need to start having kids, and we need to start having marriage, and it needs to become a priority for the generations to come.
Well, hey, I'll go there with you. I'm in
We-
total agreement with you.
We're going to,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to keep that for the second hour. So,
Okay, all right.
because I've got a good one from, I've got so many listeners who are like, I'm tuning in on Sunday. I mean, it's great. Mel Lowe donated 26.25, found military
Padres, the best.
the best. Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely real.
She's Canadian Navy.
She's our she did very similar work that I did, but for Canada. Yeah, so she's for real. She's a good one to talk to. To the pastor, I have 2 questions. I'm going to do this one second, Mallory, because I want to get Bobby's in here, and yours is going to be a longer one. Actually, I've got 3. I've got to do it. Pastor Jack, how do you learn to turn the other cheek? I need to learn that. That's from Jim Brown. Then I got Bobby's, then I got Mallory's, and this is what I was hoping for. But how do you turn the other cheek?
Yeah. Well, first, let's just acknowledge it's easy to talk about right up until you have to do it,
Yeah.
and then it gets really hard.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and this may sound like somewhat of a cliche answer, but to me, it's not cliche at all. It's really how you have to look at everything. You have to look at everything in terms of the lens of the gospel. And the gospel is, when did God come to me? When did God come after me? And it was not when I was at my best and pursuing him. It was at my worst when my back is turned to him. I'm, giving him inappropriate signs and walking in the opposite direction. And so how did he pursue me when I was that way? And now what does that mean? Well, when I'm engaging with somebody else, if they're not going to be nice, even though my first reaction is probably just going to be, kind of get stiff and get defensive, it's just sort of be like Jesus. Let your defenses down. And I think a lot of times it comes down to a matter of what are we trying to preserve? Am I trying to preserve my respect and how you're supposed to be treating me? Well, as a Christian, I died. I died to myself, and I have to continue to die to myself. And it's moments like that where it's kind of like, okay, this is where I test. Do I really trust that God has my reputation, that I don't have to have their respect, that I don't have to have all the things that I would think that I would like to demand from somebody normally? And so as you're learning to turn the other cheek, it doesn't mean that you can't engage in a conversation. It doesn't mean that you can't even have conflict. Conflict can be actually a very good thing. But there's good conflict and there's bad conflict. And you don't want to be doing the bad conflict. You want to do it well. And as in all things, just remember, it's the Lord Christ that you're serving. It's not about me. It's about what is my reflection of him wherever I go. So like I said, it's easy to talk about when you study it and you look into it. And then the minute you got to live it, all of a sudden you find out, what do I really believe in those moments? And just accept the fact that God's going to use that many times to conform you more into his image, because what did Jesus do? I mean, he went all out in terms of, he completely just let his guard down. He splayed himself open, almost literally. And so that's where I wind up having to go. And sometimes my wife and I, we've had to remind each other of that sometimes. It's like, wait a minute, what are you trying to preserve? This is not about you. And, how are we going to love this individual when they're hard to love in the moment?
Bobby came in with a good one. Sorry, Livy, I've just got a couple in a row here.
You're fine. I'm going to put a donation in.
That's fine. Knock it out. Got a couple in a row here. You're going to have to read these off. They're too small for me. Until I get my contacts, which we've ordered.
Debbie Boggs, God bless, $20. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb.
Okay, Bobby Richardson.
Yeah, Bobby Richardson, go ahead.
Okay, Pastor Jack, what do you tell someone that says, how can you believe in someone you can't see?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I know that there's people in England right now, and I don't see them. How do I know? I can hear from them. They can communicate. I can hear through other means and other measures that they're over there, and not necessarily have to see something for that to be true. And when it comes to God, and I'm assuming that's where the question is directed. When it comes to God, it's the same thing, and it's kind of like, maybe I can't see him, but can I hear him? Can I learn from him? Can I experience his power, his presence? And I can. You can. It's kind of like, we almost started the show out this way, didn't we, Matt? Because you were talking about, gosh, it's like God speaking directly to me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, I think he probably was. He was doing it through his word and through these other means. And so while you didn't walk out of the building that day and go, I saw God, he visibly appeared, there was a cloud of mist that fell down in the sanctuary. You don't say that. But you come back away going, but I know he was present. And then we have his word. And that's a big deal. Because if I've got his word, then I've got his mind. I can hear what he has to say through that. And as I live that, all of a sudden I find that's real, that's true, that's proven. And then you begin to experience his presence in that way. So it's kind of a longer answer there. But
you're on the right show to do that. Yeah, but when you're in church, you got 45 minutes to hear. We've got to, when you're tired, and I know you like to talk, and so do I. You do. Listen. You and I could have went on for probably another 2 or 3 hours that day. I didn't leave because I didn't want to keep talking. I left because I was just like, there was so much to chew on. I was going to lose things. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you get to a point in a conversation where you're just like, we got to stop. Not because I want to stop talking. It's because I'm not going to remember it if we don't stop. And I'm going to miss things, and I don't like doing that.
Thank you, Deborah McLaughlin.
Yes, Deb. Thank you so much, everybody. So here's a question: how do you discern the difference between God's voice and your own? Because that's
a good one.
That's the question, right? I mean, how do you? And I'm going to expand on this, and I know you already know, but I'm going to expand on it anyway, because I know on this show, I try to be unbiased. I try to be a man without ulterior motives, but I'm not. I want my audience to go a certain way, and I want to lead them there because I've done the work and I've walked the path, or I've went down that journey, and I want to give my experience. But unfortunately, that's not the way people learn. Experiential learning is one of the best things where people can learn themselves. So how do you not run after the sheep when the wolf is right next door? How do you not get in there and not teach them how to preserve themselves through your word versus letting them experience things and not interjecting in place of what God is saying through you versus what you want to convey? That's my question of where you're at.
Yeah. Well, this again comes back to, is God real? And if he is, and this is his word that we proclaim and we believe in, then we have to ask ourselves, what's he going to do with it? How's he going to use it to speak to people?
Right.
Now, remind me how the question originally began.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I went off a tangent. So, segmented. How do you differentiate between your voice and God's word and your own voice? And second, how do you not jump in front of the proverbial bus for people sometimes and allow them to experience things where you might see them going in a place where you know the outcome, and allow them to go through it, because the lesson is one of the most important things that they can go through. That's really my question.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I might need you to repeat the second one again. That's
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
So one of the things is whenever you preach, whenever you're preparing to teach or to proclaim God's word, you're studying it, you're praying over it. But at the end of the day, and this is why we try generally to stick with what does Scripture say and just work our way through, start to finish, verse by verse. Job, we're doing a little bit differently because it's an extremely long book, so we're almost looking at passages, and rather than going verse by verse, we're almost looking at the passages in blocks. But generally speaking, you go verse by verse, and then at the end of the day, ideally, people look at that verse on their own. And what they can do is they could say, yes, that makes sense. That is what that says. Or they'll look at it and they'll go, I don't know that means what you said it means. And if you've done a good job, then more often than not, it's basically self-explanatory. There may be like a word or a custom or something like that you're bringing into the sermon that gives a clarity and so forth. But at the end of the day, you have this Holy Spirit of God who will take His word and let people walk away with that. There's a great story in the book of Acts. It's I say story. There's a group of people. They were called the Bereans, and the Apostle Paul went and he's preaching and teaching to them, and he gives them the word, and he's doing exactly this with them. And then later on, the text says that they went back and they investigated the Scriptures on their own, and then they came back to him and they said to him, "Okay, now we believe, but it's not because of what you said. It's because what you said aligned with what we know here in this book, and it all lines up.
There it is.
Resonates.
Okay, that makes sense.
So at the end of the day, that's what you're ultimately looking for. And for me, it is one of the difficulties because when you go into preaching, you need to consider what's an application. You don't want just people to walk out and just have merely head knowledge, and they haven't really thought about how it plays out. But to me, it's also a dance, and it's carefully orchestrated. And that, there's sometimes where you go, okay, there's something we need to consider here, and we need to look at that's a little bit more specific. But I also realize, and I've had this, it's kind of humbling. People walk away from one of your sermons, and then they come back and they talk about this application, and you didn't hint at that anyway, in any way, shape, or form. But the Spirit of God led them to that understanding such that they would go, now I know exactly where I need to go with this and what I'm being taught. So, there's a mystery to it, I'll put it that way. And mystery to us, not to God. He knows exactly what He's doing. So at the end of the day, preach the word, and if you preach the word, people will look at it and they'll go, yes, that is in fact what it says.
Qualification.
Yeah.
That's a lot of responsibility for people that they have to grow accustomed to and comfortable with if they're going to truly understand, at least get on the path of understanding, because we talked about that, is that we'll never achieve perfection. And although through the lens we may be perfect through Jesus and His sacrifice, if we want to truly kind of get on that path of understanding, we have to basically qualify what we learn at our own increments and our own pace based on where we are. And I think that's really important for me, because when I came in, intelligence got in the way. And Olivia and I made fun of this for years with Kirk Cameron from Growing Pains. I think I told you this when he did a commercial and he said, you have to circumvent people's intelligence. Circumnavigate around their intelligence. And I'm like, not a chance, bro. Like, I get it now, what he was saying. He wasn't saying, to swindle or con or try to make excuses so you didn't have to face it. It's you've got to reach them here, which may be more into the soul, into the heart first, so they can change their own minds and be accepting and open. And so, Mr. Cameron, I apologize. I loved your TV show, by the way. We've got a whole bunch of questions. There's someone who wants to say something. This is Thomas Griffiths, and he's a good friend of ours. And he says, Pastor Jack, Go ahead, Liv. You can read it.
Sorry, Joanne Townsend. God bless. And thank you, $10. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne. Pastor Jack, you don't know me, but my brother fell to his death 12/4 3 months ago, come November 12th. His wife, Mary, and his kids could use a prayer, and I struggle most days. We could use it. He was wondering if you wouldn't mind leading us in a little prayer for Mary and his children and his brother. Did you? And if you're comfortable, and if not, we can wait till the end of the show.
Of course, we're happy to.
Okay.
So her name is Mary.
Yeah, and her children. And Tommy, what was your brother's name? I completely forgot. It's not that I forgot. I don't know if we've ever talked about that. If you could let me know, I would appreciate it. And then we'd love to. We're gonna wait for that answer, and I'm gonna put a timer on this because this could take the rest of the show, and I don't want it to. I'll
put this in while we're waiting.
Yeah, and Tina Savage also had one too. We want to hit that.
This one's from Chuck Peterson, which I think we told you about him the other day.
This is the studio Chuck.
Yep.
The
first show in over a week as we've been moving to Tennessee. A great one to catch up on. That means you're closer to us, Chuck.
And Chucky, this man has. I think we've agreed that when we do that show, we're going to do it together, and we'd love to have you here. So Chuck, this is the Chuck Peterson studio, yeah. So a question by Mallory, and I'm going to put a couple minutes on this, Pastor Jack, just because it's a long one.
All right, Mallory or Melanie?
No, Mallory.
Okay.
How do you feel about the climate of America on Israel and Palestine, Gaza, Hamas, etc.?
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? And like I said, I got to put a timer on this because this could take us till 2 a.m.
Yeah. It isn't that it's a hard question. It's just that I don't want it to go on and on. First of all, when it comes to Israel, just as a nation, I mean, they have the right to defend themselves. And when they were attacked, that certainly was the case. They needed to be able to defend themselves. Now, with all the other stuff that goes on, I'll just be very candid with you. I am not as abreast of what is the latest news and what's the latest thing that has occurred and going forward. But when I look at them as a nation as a whole, there's two sides to it. The first side is God had made a covenant with those people, the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. And the covenant, as my understanding is, based on Scripture, is that is not going away. In fact, eventually, God will reconvene Israel as a nation, and he will set up a kingdom in and through them in that land. And all the nations of the earth will come and pay homage to him at that time. But the flip side to it also is, as Americans, while we want to provide support for a nation that has certainly been attacked and has to be preserved, we also have to remember that they're not followers of God right now. You could call them, and at least from our perspective, and I don't mean this to sound harsh or nasty or mean, but to a degree we would view them as apostate because they've rejected Jesus, their Messiah. The Scripture tells us one day that they will bend the knee. They will acknowledge him whom they have pierced, and there'll be a turning back that he will do. So what is our role as a nation? So put an asterisk on this, all right? This is my opinion. But that's as far as I'm going to go with it. And that is, our role is we want to try to help any nation that is not being treated justly to be treated justly. And we want to see the right things done. And people that do wrong put down. And I know the people of Palestine would say, well, that's what's happening to us. And the people of Israel would say, well, that's what's happening to us. The other one is putting us down and doing us wrong. And there's an element in that, I mean, it's above, to be very candid, it's above my pay grade to understand what's fully happening on any given day over there. But I don't want to just throw Israel off and say, well, we'll just dismiss you because you don't follow God anymore. But we also need to make sure that if we're going to help them, they need to be held to a standard too, and of what's true, what's just, what's right. And I'll bet you're not a whole lot different than that, are you, Matt? Or are you?
Oh no, I listen. I've spent time in Israel. I have a very unique history with Germans and Jews in my bloodline. There's a lot of Muslims who I love and adore, and there's no doubt about that, and who I would take it to the mat for, who I consider family. And I've also seen some very extreme and deadly evil coming from the same. I will put it the best way that I can and steal it from a fellow podcaster who said, if Hamas surrendered tomorrow and laid down all their arms and gave up, the people who conducted October 7th would be held accountable. Some would be put to death. Some would be tried and spend the rest of their lives in prisons. Some would be flogged or what other appropriate type of punishment it would be. And some would just be left to remain by their own volition, to seek some sort of life. That's most assuredly true. And if Jews were to lay down their arms and surrender to Hamas, every single Jew in Israel would die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we talk about Hamas, let's realize that's not a nation. That's a terrorist organization.
You're right.
And
You're
so,
right.
you know, I almost don't compare them, even though I know you could say, well, Palestine has voted in Hamas to be their leaders and so forth.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I do differentiate between a Palestinian and Hamas. And
Yeah.
I know that sometimes those are the same thing, but not always.
No, you're right. And I think the mentality, though, from the river to the sea, and 91% of adults, is because this is the way that they've been radicalized. So I certainly can differentiate between Palestine and Hamas, the terrorist organization, but the mentality towards Jews has been really indoctrinated into that area for the last 35 years. And it's going to take time to move away from it. And I hope that this is a lasting peace. I hope Hamas can be removed. And I hope the Palestinian people can find some sort of peace with Israel and vice versa, because the Middle East is a tumultuous and dangerous place. And it's been that way for 3,000 years, long before we've gotten involved. And I think it would be very arrogant to think that we have the ability to solve it, when ultimately it sounds like God is going to be the end all when it comes to that area and region. So I think we should do as much as we can not to instigate that, but that falls on deaf ears.
No. It is interesting. I remember one person saying this, and I've just it stuck with me, and said, give me evidence that God exists. And the individual said, the nation of Israel.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, when you look at it, it's kind of like, you see the spiritual influence that goes in behind them, against them, and always has. And I continue to ask myself, well, why is that? You know, is it just first of all, that they've lasted this long?
Right.
And they've been preserved.
Right.
And then on top of that God continues to deliver them, despite the fact that they've been through some pretty horrendous things over time. But yeah, it's I'm glad I'm not the president. Just put it that way.
Oh no,
yeah.
Like listen, it's an area that I study, and the history of which is what's really exciting for me is to start studying the Word of God and getting back into it. It fills a lot of gaps for me, and I even told that to people, because my knowledge is history without Scripture, and now to have the Scripture will just make me more affluent in the culture, because there's no such thing as an expert in the Middle East. I always love when these people come on, I'm an expert in the Middle East. No, you're not, because that's impossible. Yeah, you could spend an entire career on the Shias and the Sunnis and never scratch the surface of anywhere else in the Middle East. And it's just, the history is too rich, it's too violent, it's too turbulent, and there's so many things that are just not collected in one place. You really have to be a purveyor of multiple countries and multiple sects of religions and of people. And when you mix a theocratic belief with identity and your race and ethnicity, it gets really complicated. Yeah. So, fantastic. I've got the names of...
Thank you, Isaac. He donated again.
Thank you, Isaac. And she's going to put that in real quick. Thank you, brother. Thomas. Steve is Thomas's brother, Steve Jr., and then Kristen is his wife.
No,
wait. Kristen
Mary
and
is
his
the wife.
Okay, Liv, you do it.
Yeah. Okay.
My
so
ADD is over the rails.
So Thomas Griffiths, Steve is the brother who just passed. His wife Mary, and they had 2 children, Stephen Jr. and Kristen.
Okay, so kids are Steve Jr. and Kristen. Wife is Mary
Yes.
and Steve. And Olivia, why don't you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to pop this up because this has been a long day for Pastor Jack, and I want to make sure that we give him a little bit of just reflection on the notes here. So can you put that over on your window?
Yes.
And
I can see it.
I know. I just want to make sure you have that. All right. Can you see that okay, Pastor?
Yeah.
All right. Outstanding.
All right. Pray now.
Yeah.
Our Father in heaven, when I think about this family in particular, the pain that goes in a loss like this, Lord, our hearts just go out to them. And, we wish we could undo this. We wish we could just make it all better, that we could do a reset. And for whatever reason, you've allowed this to happen. And it's another one of those instances like we talked about earlier. We just don't get it. We don't understand it. But we do know this, Lord, that you are the one who will be the father to the orphan. You are the one who will take care of the widow ultimately. And you love this family, and you will care for them. I'm thankful that they have got someone, Thomas, who is concerned for them and longs to pray for them. And Lord, we just pray that you would surround them with people who will come alongside to help them out on every level, relationally, financially. And but at the end of the day, Lord, we do pray that you would be a father to those that are now fatherless. And help this mother. I don't know of many things much harder than being a single mother. And I just pray and ask, God, you give her tremendous support and love. And in this time of confusion and not really understanding why they have to go through this right now, continue to show them who it is that you are, and let them know of your ever-present hand. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, that's so.
That's yeah. There's a lot of pain in this group of people, and they've been through tremendous journeys. And there's one thing about this show is that we talk to our fans, we engage with them. Most podcasts don't, and we try to be a place. We've talked people off of the final solution a few times and help them through it. A lot of veterans who've just been in some real dark places, and we try to help when we can. We give back when we can. We do what we can. And it's great to have you here with them. Folks, you can go to the Blue Ridge Bible Church at brbible.org. You can go ahead and learn about Pastor Jack Gill and the entire congregation and the elders and the staff and everybody there. It is a very family-orientated church. Beautiful service, wonderful song, and then some really, really good sermons that make you think and make you question at the same time. And that's the interesting part. I wrote Pastor Jack when I think it was the third time we went into Job, and I'm like, that was dark. I was like, that was a little dark. But the true thing was, and during that day, and the kids, Hayden said it best. I wish she could sit down with us, but she's like, I think it's not that God wasn't with us, it's God let us navigate that one alone. And we did it together because Job was alone in that time. And she's like, I know God was there, but it just felt like it was heavy. There was a heavy something in the air. And it wasn't like we were abandoned. It was like, hey, this is a time where you're going to have to kind of navigate this part so you can feel. And it was we all had the same, all four of us were like, yep, I felt, because we always do that. We share, each one goes, Olivia will go or Ethan will go, and we take one thing. And I told him, if you can just take one thing from church every single time we go, then it's always time to go the next week. And when you don't take one thing away, you got to start asking yourself the question, do you think you know everything or you're just not listening? So anyway, good stuff. Liv, questions?
Yes, there's a donation coming up from Miss Bobby Richardson.
Bobby, 1595. Appreciate you, Pastor Jack.
Thank you, Matt and Olivia, for the show tonight. Love you all. They're coming soon. They're coming soon.
Getting old, Mom. Okay.
All right. So staying more on the heavy side of things, Melanie Marino wants to know, how do you find it to forgive people who took a life from you? She's struggling with this herself from personal experience.
And very quickly, Ivalee, it is so good to see you in here.
Oh, is she back?
We love you, and
Yay.
it's so good to see you back and strong. So welcome. This is a good show for you to be on. Pastor
Yay.
Jack, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, sir.
No. I mean, that's one of the hardest circumstances I think you can be in to experience, and that is to have something like that happen to you, whether it was intentional or unintentional. And by unintentional, it's like, I don't know, was it drunk driver? Was it
It was
this
intentional.
murder? Yeah. You know, and I think these are the kinds of things where you got to be careful, because it's easy to talk about it and just approach it like it's theory or something like that, you know, and analyze and dissect it. But in this instance, you can't just analyze this. You're talking about people whose lives are greatly affected by this. And, you know, I think back when at the whole Charlie Kirk funeral, and I think the biggest moment of that whole thing is when his wife could stand up there and say that she forgave the killer.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching that, and I just remember me personally going, I don't know how you can do that.
Yeah, me neither.
You know? And the only thing that I know in that is, I'll give you another circumstance that I encountered. It's a very different situation, but it's the same principle. And that was, we had this woman in our church. She had cancer, and she was dying. And we knew it, and a group of us went over there just to spend some time with her and pray with her. She only had a few more weeks that she would live. And in our conversation with her, we were just blown away with how she was handling it, how she could deal with it. And so we left, and we had a meeting with somebody else, and we all kind of gathered together. And as we sat around, we were just conveying how we could not believe how this woman was dealing with her circumstance and situation.
Jennifer.
And
Get the kitty.
Jennifer.
Get the kitty, please.
She's
Come
all
here,
right.
kiddo.
She's all right. But
Come here.
we
Jenny.
just couldn't believe how she handled that circumstance, how that situation. And the other individual that we met when we went in that room, he just made this comment. He said, you know, it's because she needs the grace that only God can give her, and God is giving it to her. And you don't understand it because you don't need it right now. He's not going to give it to you when you don't need it. When you have an event like that, it's like an extra measure of grace that you just need to go before God and just say, God, I need the grace to move on from this and to be able to forgive personally on something like this, because I think that's the only way that you can. You know, but people can say, I decided to, I chose to, but man, that emotion, that feeling, that injustice is so strong and real. And, you know, it's just something that you're going to have to rely on the grace of God to get you through, and just ask him for that, and find people that will surround you and help you. And they won't necessarily just, you know, throw 2 verses at you and check on you in the morning.
Check the box, yeah.
Yeah, but people that will actually, they'll listen to where you are, what you're dealing with, love on you, and help you, because that, man, it's stuff like that. It'd be very easy to be given over into bitterness. And I'm not saying this person is. I'm not accusing them of that. I just know that is a common thing that can happen when a big injustice has happened to you.
Right.
So, you know, you don't want to grow bitter. I've heard it said before, bitterness is the poison you drink waiting for somebody else to die. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, that's true.
You know, this can take you in that direction. Mm-hmm. And but I think it's only something God alone can help you through it. But his grace is sufficient, the scripture said. But yeah, it can take some time.
She responded She said, to give you a little background, it was her daughter-in-law was murdered, and she now takes care of the grandsons.
Oh my goodness.
So she had 2 little boys, I think. She said, I try, I promised, I do. I drop to my knees every day begging for it. When I have to answer to those boys, I break and get so angry still. So I know I have not forgiven yet. But she says, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got the video.
You're going to play it and you're going to make me cry, aren't you?
No, I'm not trying to make you cry. You already cried, so you can cry again. But I'm going to play that because, and I want people to understand, this is really important to me. I didn't want this to be a dark conversation because there's light. But these questions, I think most people don't ask. And they're afraid to go into these areas because this is why I'm so in love with this experience, is because you can ask questions, and as long as your intent, and I think that's the most important thing. We talked about positive intent when we sat down, is if you're asking just to quantify your own egotism or your own thirst to make people feel stupid, well, you can see through that. But if you're seeking answers, this is the place for you. I'm going to show you this video, and we've got some more, and don't leave. We've got some good stuff coming. Here is Olivia's reaction to Erica Kirk, and this really kind of puts it in perspective, the emotion of how important this was. And this was live.
Yeah, we showed the funeral live.
On the cross, our Savior said, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Such a powerful.
Cry again, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I apologize. It's you okay?
Yeah, I cry every time I see it.
It's emotional. It's a very powerful thing, and forgiveness is it's a heavy thing, and I think there's people who are searching for that answer, and I guess, Pastor, tell me if I'm wrong here, but if you're looking for the answer on how to forgive, and you're looking for the answer of how to deal with these insurmountable weights that we carry, there's only one answer, and it's laid out for us. And the hardest part is looking for it. And tell me if I'm wrong there.
No, another aspect of forgiveness, there definitely is a choosing to do. I'm not just speaking of this woman's circumstance. It's for all of us whenever we've been wronged. There's a choosing to forgive. And so on what standard, though, do we look at that? And we just have to keep coming back to what she just quoted there about Jesus on the cross. His call was, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. And, that was the greatest injustice that's ever happened. The only truly innocent person who would be murdered in the way that he was, and shamefully treated and scorned, as Scripture say. But his call would be, okay, forgive them. And so when I stop and I think about what I'm guilty of, it's probably easy sometimes to look and say, well, I've never murdered anybody. So, that's a different standard of forgiveness. But at the end of the day, really for all of us, the forgiveness is for sin and for things that has been done to us. When we do that, it's just like, that's why I say I think that moment was the most powerful moment at the Charlie Kirk funeral, because that's the most powerful demonstration of the gospel that you could find.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a level of forgiveness. Notice she still cried after she said that.
And she was struggling with it. I mean, there was some anger there too. Yeah.
No, you would. I would struggle. All of us would.
Yeah.
And even in little offenses, sometimes I struggle. And I'm sure people have done that with me too. They've struggled with forgiving me as well. But I think that's one of the most powerful displays of the gospel. That's when you're actually living it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you still don't struggle with the emotions afterwards on something so grievous and on the consequences that you face day after day for months, years after the fact, like this woman. That it's one thing to struggle with your feelings, but at the end of the day, the call is not forgive him and now don't feel anything anymore. It's forgiveness is that spiritual decision that you're making. And then from that point on, you let your feelings catch up.
There it is. Yeah. So it's like, it's the process of forgiveness is you forgive, and it may not be full-throated, and it may not be 100% where it's going to be 2 years from now, but forgive, put yourself on that path, and then understanding comes later.
Well, feelings, they say feelings are like a caboose. You've got the engine, which is where the decisions are going to be made. And then once you've moved in that direction, the caboose tends to follow.
That's great.
But there's also a feeding of your mind. You want to feed your mind, not on the pain, not continue to feed your mind on the wrong, on the injustice. It comes a point where you have to feed your mind on what is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, Scripture says, you think on those things. And
I like that.
Yeah.
40 years, I rejected God because of my feelings and my emotions and my inability to forgive. How much did I miss? How much sorrow did I go through that maybe could have been, I don't know, navigated through more effectively, or I could have went around, or just completely not even encroached upon it at any time. And, I think that's why reflection is important, is because we look back and go, oh, well, 10 years ago, I've learned so much. I didn't know anything when I was 20, but now that I'm 30, I know so much. And then, 40, 15, 16, come on.
Yeah.
But it's a really good point. And, there's questions here about what happens when there's betrayal inside the church. And we've all, I think the answer has been given 100 times. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is kind of leave those questions that are a little bit more morose and a little deeper in, and get a little bit towards the light. When it comes to the church, you've done so many great things, and I hear about all the time when we have guest missionaries that come on, and some of the programs that you do. I would love you to just take just a little bit of time and talk about Blue Ridge Bible Church and the mission and what it has to offer to everybody, from digital and physical and everything in between, spiritual.
Yeah. Well, as a church as a whole, what we exist to exalt and glorify God. That may sound like a cliche thing, but it is true for every church. That's your goal. And then on top of that, Jesus said, "Go therefore and make disciples." Well, what's a disciple? It's helping people learn how to follow God as they know who He is. Sometimes it can be easy to fall prey to the mindset of just, let's just get people to where they're doing all these different things. And it's kind of like, well, if you're doing a bunch of things, but you miss God in the process, you've not succeeded. So it's always about looking to who He is, understanding that through His Word, and then the actions that you take are either going to be helping others in their growth and their development, or just helping others wherever they are. So, as a church, we try to be involved in various things within the community. Some things are small. Some things can be a little bit bigger, but generally speaking, it's what puts us in the path of other people. A great example this week, one of the things we have is we have small groups that meet during the week. And so we just purposed that this week we would say, look, whatever night you have that you normally spend, take that 2 hours and cash it in. And instead of meeting with other Christians, do something that puts you with other people that either aren't Christians or aren't churched or are stuck in their Christian walk and in the Christian faith, and give some of your time to them. So it doesn't just merely stay in the church. And so that's not like some big effort that the church has done, concerted, outside. But it is something that just allows each one of us to begin to touch the lives of the people that God puts in our paths. And so I know that several people are going to be doing that this week. But then we have other things too. Like we've been involved in certain programs. I think it was before you got here when we did the backpacks for the kids in school, and just knowing that not all kids have the material means to have what they basically need for school. So we teamed up with Tree of Life, which is here in this area, and put together a series of backpacks, joined with them, a number of other churches, so that we could get a lot of backpacks out to a lot of children. And, just give them the materials and give them the goods and try to be a blessing. Because you know how it is. You bless me, that's one thing. You bless my kid, oh my goodness. You bless me at a whole different level.
Correct.
So, trying to find various things like that. And of course we have missionaries that we support around the world. God leads certain people to our congregation, and we have connections, and that enables us to, in some cases, only provide financially. There's some places that we just will not be able to go, and we can't send people over there to help. All we can do is pray for them, keep up with them, and provide them funds. But then there's other ones that we can actually go over there, and we can be a support. We can help them. We can minister alongside of them. Not that long ago, we had a group of people go to Africa in Ghana. We support some ministries out there in Ghana, and I've had the chance to go out there a few times myself. And man, you go out there, and even though you're dealing with, for a lot of people, it's a wake up call because you go into third world. And I know you've been familiar with third world, but all of a sudden you fall in love with the people. You
really do.
Oh, it is
every time.
It's like you can't wait to go back. And even though there's trash all over the ground, or it's not exactly the best conditions, or sometimes there may be just a different smell that you are not used to and uncomfortable with, or foods you don't necessarily like.
Pakistan.
You meet the people, and it's kind of like, this is
it changes everything.
Oh, it's everything.
India was that for me, and it just some of the most amazing, loving, kind people in the world.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, so those are just some of the areas that come to my mind right off the top of my head.
But there's a ton of groups. I mean, and there's something for everybody, whether it's for the kids or for moms or for men, and it's an amazing thing. And I remember Bill McCartney from the Promise Keepers. I had a chance to attend one of his football camps at CU. My father played for CU and did recruiting for CU, so I had a chance to go through the Sal and Essay thing when he passed away from leukemia and cancer, and he was number 8 for the Buffs, and met him and Eric Bieniemy, and Bill McCartney would walk into the room or walk into the rafters at Boulder Stadium, and that man had a command presence like you've never seen. I mean, you would have sworn a 4-star was walking in the room. Everybody just, when he walked in, everybody got quiet. And it wasn't because he ever raised his voice. I don't think I ever heard him raise his voice. But when he spoke, people listened. And whether you like this admiration and accolades or not, I'm going to give them to you. You have that presence. When you walk up on that dais and you take that pulpit, people listen. And everybody's listening anyway. But it's different when you walk up there. And that's something I admire. To command a room of the amount of intelligence, the amount of love, the amount of strength that's in those seats, and to be able to command that room, it takes a special kind of person. And I think people can find that and experience it. You go to brbible.org. Did we have
incoming donation?
Incoming donation? Thomas Griffith, I bet.
Yep, Thomas Griffith.
How did I figure? He's always there. $100 from Thomas. Thank you. You want to read that? Because
it
too
says,
small.
Thank you for the prayer. It means so much. Yes.
If you could ask God one question, Pastor, what would it be?
Oh, boy, that is a really good question.
Yeah, I saved that one. Save that one for a reason.
Yeah. Why in the world would you save me?
Ooh.
Wow, deep.
Because
like Harvard, ask a question with a question. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing I just don't get. It goes back to sort of like, how do you ask someone to forgive the individual who murdered their family member? But God went further. He didn't just forgive. He adopted me. you know? And that's the kind of depth of love that is just incomprehensible. And like I said, I know me, and I know things about me that you will not know. And I'm sure you got things about you that you would just assume we not know.
There's only one person who knows most of it that's not classed. So, I mean, any of the classified stuff, I could take that to the grave. But otherwise, she's pretty much got everything. Yeah, the good, the bad, the ugly, and there's some ugly.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of ugly. And when you see it in that depth, you know, because I think a lot of times we see it in terms of the depth of our comparison. We compare one another with one another. The standard is the comparison of the perfect holiness of God. And that is a standard that is just, it's inconceivable to us. It's not the best analogy, but I liken it to looking at the sun. You know, you can't look at the sun. If you did, do it for a few seconds, you'll be blinded. It's just too bright, too mighty for you. And when you come down to the holiness of God, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be on a standard that you just can't conceive of. It's brighter and bigger than anything you can imagine. So when you look at anything that we do and the sin that we have, and the fact that God would say, I'm still going to come after you, that would be the question. Why would you do that? Because I don't get it.
How do you balance grace and accountability in the church? Because you do put the onus on the parishioners to. Is that what we're calling them? Parishioners? Is that correct? Or congregation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, parishioners, congregants.
Okay.
Yeah, people of God, saints of the church. You know, there's so many different terms.
The Virginians.
But
So, but how do you balance that? Because I believe. I don't believe. That's not right. That's the wrong word. I feel that you give a healthy dose of optimism, but also a very, very healthy dose of personal accountability in your sermons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, balancing grace and what'd you say? Balancing grace and accountability. Yeah. So when it comes to accountability, I mean, God gives us all a lot of freedoms in terms of how we're going to live and what we're going to do. When it comes to sin, God makes it clear, don't pursue that, you know, don't go down that vein, don't go down that tack. And so we have one another to help each other as we struggle with these various things. And there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of there's a lot of grace to help people, and people have helped me, you know, in areas where I've fallen short, in areas where I don't deliver, or in some cases just sin. But you don't tolerate sin. You call people out of it and you help them through it. So the grace comes into play because you're walking with people. You know, you're the walking wounded too. As a leader, you're just leading with a limp. You know, you're the same as everybody else. But as you're going along, you're trusting that God is going to work with each person, and you're going to help them and go just as far as they're willing to go in their walk and in their faith. And when that comes up short, when, you know, it's ideal when we are asking other people to help us with that. You know, it's kind of a self-accountability that God gives us. Yeah. But at least for me personally, one of the great things I have is I got a group of men in the church that can call me to account. And when I say that they will never just sit down and browbeat me and, you know, finger point or do whatever. They're exhorting me. They're encouraging me. They're giving me different things to think about, to consider. And, you know, I think that's where the grace comes in. We're spurring one another on to love and good deeds.
Yeah. I've experienced a very small part of that. Just
how so?
I feel that the conversations that I've had, some of them have been on purpose.
Like what? If you don't mind my putting you on the spot.
No, you're not putting me on the spot.
Okay, good.
You're just going to ask me with names, and I'm horrible with names. Like,
that's all right.
Like, I can remember I can spot somebody from 27 years ago in Okinawa and tell you, I know that guy.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but I'm horrible with names. So but some of the elders have approached me, and it feels purposeful, right? Yeah. Because the questions are purposeful, and I'm a purveyor of people. I'm a studier of. I'm not stupid, right? I know when something maybe have been said and then a follow-up is coming, and it's never an attack. It's always a question, you know, I want to do this. And it happened with the podcast. And that's why I asked you at the end. I said, did you tell people that you're coming on? Because I'll be honest with you, I carried a lot of heavy weight with you coming on, because I never want to tarnish somebody's reputation inadvertently.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And we cover some very serious topics, and I'm a very opinionated human being. And it's funny because people were kind of worried. There's like, oh, you know, Matt, are you going to be okay? I'm like, you guys, I work for Fortune 15s. It's not hard for me to turn it off and be professional. I prefer to be just very honest with everything I do. But anyway, the conversations are always, I don't know, always so kind, and always like how are things, and how's your experience, and how's the podcast going? What are you working on? What are you doing? And I always wonder, is there an ulterior motive here?
No.
And I know that, but that's what I'm saying, is that I've come to that realization that it's genuine care, and it's nothing else. And that's what, when you say you can get that feedback, or you can get that direct conversation, but there's no ill content associated with it. It's designed to help and bring people closer. My point is I definitely agree with you, and it's very purposeful in that group.
Yeah. I mean, God's really blessed us in that regard. We have a lot of people, and and we do challenge one another. We want to help each other, right? And that is, take the initiative. Don't just let somebody come in and walk out and not having taken the initiative. And if you're afraid of something like, well, what if I say, hey, I haven't met you yet? And they go, yeah, I've been going here for 20 years. It's kind of like, well, we can rephrase the question to remove that kind of discomfort for you. But at the end of the day, it's, I was really marked a while back, and we had a young woman. She came to the church, and she just came on her own. She brought her she brought her son. And she walked in, and I met her as she came in the door. Very sweet, very kind, and asked her if she knew anybody, and she said no. And I said, so you just came here on your own? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, that's great. And I try to walk her through, help her, find a place. Well, it turns out she didn't know somebody in the church after all. Her son played baseball with another person in the church. Kids just bring the connection.
Sure they did.
And so as they were leaving, I got a chance to see her again. It just happened to work out that the timing was great as she was going out, and I just affirmed her, and I said, "Hey, listen, it's a scary thing to walk into a church a lot of times when you don't know anybody."
Right.
And I'll never forget. She looked at me and she goes, "It's terrifying," and that surprised me.
Yeah,
man. And it shouldn't, but it did. It really surprised me.
What surprised you about it? I mean, people can't get in front. Like you and I can jump up and get in front of it. Listen, your first 3.5 minutes on here, go back and listen to it. Your nerves were going. I could hear it in your voice. I'm not stupid. I've been doing this a long time. But you immediately just, it's like a bike. Trepidation and nervousness is your own expectations of yourself. Very, very rarely is it subconscious. People are purposeful about being their toughest critics. So I can hear that with people. And even when I went on OAN or wherever, I'm not going to lie, it's a little nervous. First time chief of staff, I had to debrief. I was nervous.
Yeah.
I had to brief the Secretary of Defense. I was a little nervous.
Not bad.
But there are people who are generally terrified. Like you and I getting a little dry-mouthed or nervous is very different, but it's not personal. It's just, it's not in their wheelhouse. It's not in their bag of tricks. And
yeah. Well, you're walking into a sanctuary. You're walking into the thing. It's supposed to be intimate, right? Mm-hmm. At least between you and God. And then you've got all these people around you too. And you wonder, am I going to connect with them? Am I going to be the weird oddball? Am I not going to know what to do? How's all this going to work? So in that regard, I do get it. And, part of discipleship, training a congregation, is helping one another to see and reminding one another often to say, when we shake hands and nobody shakes your hand, that feels very weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the first time we had to, you're like, take a second and look at your neighbor. And I'm like, I'm out. See, that terrifies me.
Yeah.
I can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, but forced interaction. No, I'm not good at it. I never have been. And we would do that in seminars, and we would do that in retreats. And it's like, go find out 5 things about your neighbor. I'm like, dude, just list 5 things so I can write it down. And,
Yeah.
But that has now become something that I enjoy. And I'm the one, instead of me sitting there going, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me, I'm actually going out and I'm picking people now. So it becomes a muscle that you get a little bit better at over time.
Oh, yeah. There was a young guy that I had a chance to work with and disciple and train for a while. And he just made the comment. He said, okay, listen, I'm growing. I'm doing a lot of stuff. Don't expect me to shake anybody's hand. I'm just not that kind of guy. And I said, all right, well, I'll tell you what, do this. Don't necessarily look for somebody's hand to shake. Look for somebody that's alone. And then tell me what you're going to do about that.
That's right.
Well, what he found was he had a daughter, and his daughter easily connected with other kids. And it was through his daughter he found, oh, that makes it easier for me to actually meet people.
Yeah, a touchstone.
After he did that 2 or 3 times, I mean, he came back and he's like, it is my mission on Sunday morning to make anybody that looks alone feel welcome. And, whatever I can do to do that. And, and then when you've been on the receiving end, like you just recently went through, you really get it.
Yeah. And so names, I had to look it up. I'm such a sellout. Bill Parker in my corner.
Oh yeah.
We just call him Patrick Dempsey's dad.
Yeah. He looks so much like Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah.
And then
those are both awesome men.
They're incredible. And
Darren.
And Darren, yes.
Yes, we've sat next to him several times.
Darren's amazing, and he was singing so loud, and I love it. He can't carry a tune, by the way. I hope you're watching, but man, you inspire me. There's no ego there, and he is such a kind and loving man. And then Mike went to Arizona right in the RV. Yeah. And I haven't seen him come back because I someone I always talk to every time. It doesn't matter.
Oh, they're back. They're back now.
It's just folks, it's hard to explain. And some of you are like, yeah, duh. We know. We've been doing this our whole lives, but I haven't. And, one of the things that people told me, Amy, who sits in your seat, who you have to meet Amy. She's like, Job, with Job, this is your journey, but you're going to be tested even harder. And I think you and I even talked about that I'm coming to this in a dyslexic backwards way. I'm coming this caboose first, not with the emotions, but kind of going through some of those tests and still being able to say, okay, now I'm ready. And I know the worst of the worst, if that took place, that would be a dark place for me. But I think I can handle the mundane, or turn the things that most people would find significant into the mundane now. Because Olivia can say, I think she would say that she's seen that in my life now. When bad things come up, it's like, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to this is going to suck for 72 hours. We're going to hate it. The Chicken Little thing. And then we're going to find a solution, or a solution will present itself. And so we kind of got into faith before we knew it was faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, everybody's story is going to be different.
Sure.
And what God does and the journey that they take is going to be very unique for each one.
Folks, if you have not had a chance, you can go to thedumbshow.com/donate. And I know there's plenty of people who are waiting to the end because you guys and girls are amazing. Liv, go ahead.
Matt Howenitz, we call him Mr. Hollandaise. 2876, thank you for the prayer. It means so much.
Thank you, Maddie.
That's not what he said. That was somebody else's. I'm sorry.
Just say Matt said that. Matt probably said Matt Spear is the greatest podcast host I've ever seen in my life.
No, he didn't say anything. It's just...
Pastor, can you look away for a second?
All right.
Matt, I've got something for you. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do it. Here. So if you have not had a chance, go to thedumbshow.com/donate. Thank you for rounding it out, Maddie. That's what you always do. Maddie has OCD, and if he doesn't round out the donation number, like 1 cent left or right, he'll always fill it in with 99 or +1 in order to make it perfect. We always do this every time. We have about 7 minutes left. So before we go, if you have not had a chance to donate to the show, please do that. Jeffrey says the dumb show was bad to the bone.
There's no B, Jeffrey.
There's no B, Jeff. Jeff, you donate how much to this show, and you've been here how long?
B.
And you did give us 5 gold stars. We appreciate it. That's good. One other thing. A lot of people were worried that there was a particular troll who was going to call in and make the show hard tonight, or try to distract. And we prepared, because that's what we do. And I know.
Yep.
And I'm completely, here's the thing. You give life to things you focus on. And there's a time and a place for those things. Tonight's not that night. Tonight is hopefully an introduction to a church that can help you in your time of need spiritually. And give you something that you're missing because you want to invest into it. And it's not about taking things away. It's not about focus on the negative. It's not about talking about current events. It's something bigger. It's something deeper. And that's important to me. So we weren't going to give it life. And tomorrow we'll give it life. Tonight we won't, because this is more important. Pastor Jack, everyone on this show gets a closing minute or two to basically take the reins and say whatever they want. Now, I know a lot of people are scared right now. They're with the EBT and food stamps and what's going to be happening there with our military, with paychecks, with conflicts around the world. There is, with a massive hurricane, one of the largest we've ever seen. And isn't it funny? Not funny. Isn't it ironic that it's one of the lowest hurricane seasons we've ever had as far as volume of damage and intensity, and then we get one of the worst we've ever seen.
Not one's hit the U.S. this year.
And that's and that's kind of the way things happen. But would love for you to kind of take the reins for 5 minutes or so, and then we have a couple little things we want to talk about with you, and we'll kind of go from there. So, sir, the mic is yours.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. You know, you've really purposed to talk. It's because it's the church that you've recently begun coming to here in the last few months, and you've really spoken a lot about our church. And there's two things about that I want to speak on. The first one is one of the great things about God is He doesn't put all of His resources in merely one place. You know, there are a ton of churches, good churches throughout this nation. My goodness, we go to our town alone, Percival. I personally know many of the pastors that are here. And in fact, when the Charlie Kirk thing happened, I got together, just happened to stumble onto, but got together with Pastor Corey, who's over at Percival Baptist. And, you know, he and I just chatted for a little bit, and it was just a real time of helping each other out in a time where we both were sort of reeling with all the news and the events that had happened that week. But, you know, there's Catoctin Presbyterian Church. They're a different denomination from us, but I know that pastor very well. In fact, I'll be walking with him first thing in the morning, and or one of the pastors. He used to be the former pastor. He's since handed that reins over to another young man. But my point in all this is what's true in our town is also true in this nation. And I've heard from some people, well, I can't really find a good church. And I get that, because not all of them will preach biblical truth. But if you do the work, and if you well, let's start with asking God. If you don't have one, begin looking and keep going, and start with what do they believe, and then ask yourself, do these people love each other? And if you can go with what they believe and they love each other, you found your church. And then you get involved and you take the risk. But few things are going to help your spiritual life grow and advance like the church. I mean, you've got the Word of God. We've talked about that numerous times tonight. And you've got to be in it, and you've got to study it so that you know God. Not that you know about God merely, but that you know God through His Word, through listening and hearing Him. And then on top of that, you've got God's people. And I think a lot of times, especially since COVID, we had a lot of people sort of check out of the church.
Yeah.
And it's not been good. Or they went to a church, but they just stayed on the perimeter, you know, in the what I would call the safe zone. I actually understand why people do that. But you're giving me the mic right now. So what I want to do is I want to give a shout out and a challenge to all those people that are on the fringe in a church, or they don't have one. And just kind of make it a commitment to say, no more. You know, I need it, and they need you. They need your gifts. They need your ability. They need your skills. They need, whatever it is that God gives you with, you will make that church better because you're there. Now, all this is based on the assumption. And the assumption is that you do know God. And just because you've given me this platform, let me just say that, when it comes to knowing God, I can pull it down to 4 points. God is holy. You are not. I'm not. And how do I know? Because if I could take all of your thoughts just in the last 24 hours and I could broadcast them on a screen to a congregation of people, you would never let me do it. And the reason you would never let me do it is too embarrassing, too humiliating, too much that's in there. And it just reveals to us we're sinners. Mm-hmm. So there's the gap between us and God. Now, how do we close the gap? We don't. That's the amazing thing about the gospel. You know, all religions, you find man's trying to say, how do I get up? How do I achieve unto God? And this one is different because it's the one where God actually comes down. And when he sent Christ to pay the penalty for our sins and take them on himself, there was a redemption that happened, you know, that we now can approach God and be one with him. And it isn't merely that he took our sins. He did one step further than that. He took the righteousness, the perfect righteousness Jesus has, the perfect holiness, and he's transferred that over to us. So it's going to sound like an arrogant statement, but I'm perfect. Now, Jack Gill is not perfect. Jesus Christ on Jack Gill, he's the one that's perfect. And when God looks at me, he looks at me through him. He's like a filter, and he sees Christ's perfection when I'm in him. And through that, my sin's been taken away. His righteousness is given to me. And what does that mean? I know God. And now I'm on a journey. And that journey has a destination to be with him one day. But in the meantime, I'm with him now. And I can grow in him and I can know him. And so if that's a new information to anybody, or you just want to know more, or you just have further questions, my goodness, I'd love the opportunity to try to work through some of that with you. But so would the pastors in good, solid churches in your area, depending on where you are. So I would love to help you on that journey if that's where you are. And I want to thank the both of you for just giving us the opportunity to share that message, because really that's what every church is ultimately all about.
We're not going to let it be the last time, just letting you know.
Yeah, okay. Well, and just between you and me, I've really enjoyed getting to meet you both. It's been a real pleasure to get to see you, meet you, have that one extended conversation with you, and then another visit with the both of you since then. And just thoroughly enjoyed that. So thank you for that.
Well, a lot of people did too. You can go back and read the comments, but there are a lot of thankful people for your presence, your affable nature, your tonality, how you present yourself. You made some fans tonight, which is good, because maybe not what you're looking for, but you know, it's always nice to have people like you, because you can't change people's mind unless they do. And I believe that more than anything. And Winning Friends and Influencing People. It's a very good book. Not as good as the book, but it's still a good book. We have a caller on right now. We have Paul, and then Olivia's got a couple things. Paul is from Montana. Paul, I know you were very interested in calling, so I'm going to give it to you, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Pastor, I just want to start by saying thanks for spending time with us tonight. It was an awesome show. I invited my mom to come and watch. She's not one for the politics and the, all the stuff that we usually do here. But she's in chat, and she is I'm not a religious man. But when I have questions, I go to her. And I'm 56 years old. She was born again when I was, 13, 14 years old. So she's been through this, doing this. She has lost a son at 19 years old in a car accident. She lost a severely ill daughter at 17 years old. She lost her husband from a massive heart attack at 56 years old. And she has been just absolutely steadfast in her faith. And me not being what she is, I've always just, how do you do it? How do you go through all these things, and God puts you through these things, and you just stand there and you stay strong, and how do you do it? what would you say to someone like me who has those questions? Why is God doing this to you?
Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the question we all ask whenever we go through tragedy. Why is that? Matt talked about in our church, we've been going through the book of Job. And in Job, he in essence is asking why. I didn't necessarily do anything to deserve this, to bring this on to me. So why do I have to go through it? And I would love to be able to just say, well, it's because A is B and B is C, therefore A is C. And I just can't do it. We all have a different journey in this life, and why God allows some people to go through things harder or deeper or more frequent than others, I don't have an answer. I don't know what that is. All that I know to do with this, though, is we come back to, at the end of the day, for those of us that know God and know his love for us, evidenced through Christ, and knowing that Christ suffered, I know that God understands my suffering. And then after that, instead of going why, I just have to keep coming back to who. Who are you? And are you somebody that I can trust in and through this tremendous difficulty? And when you know him and the difficulties do come, you learn a different level of trust, a whole different level of support like your mother has experienced despite the tremendous adversities. So I don't know if that's really a sufficient answer for what you're asking, Paul. Why does she go through all this, and how do you endure it? I think her answer, I'm going to guess that her answer would be, it hurts like everything. And it's incredibly painful and hard, but God is trustworthy. And this life is not all there is. There is a destiny that I have. And maybe I'll get an answer then. One of the things we saw in the book of Job, we're continuing to learn, is Job never gets an answer as to why he suffered. Never. It's never given in the book. We deduce things as to why he might have suffered like that. But we don't get an answer where we go, oh, it makes sense. And Job didn't get it in this life. But we trust a God who can take even our pain and he can use it in ways that we don't understand, and we may not even see the final result. And that's where we have to rest. But man, I'm sorry for all the loss you guys have gone through. That's tough.
Well, and that is my admiration for her, is that she never questioned her faith or why or anything like that. That was more of me. And like I said, my mom and I have had this conversation. It's like, how do you do it? I just do. It's there. I trust it. And yeah, your answer was pretty much the conversation that I've had with her over the years.
Paul, I certainly don't want to offer insight here because my experience is pretty juvenile, and I didn't mean to interrupt. But I'd like to look at it from a human level, if it's okay. And that's something I think I can speak on. You're a parent.
Of course.
You're a parent, and no matter what age you are, you're going to protect your children. And their faith and their belief, they would probably put and sacrifice their own to ensure that yours remains intact. I know I would for my children. And I know even when I wasn't going to church, I would never speak ill of God, no matter what my personal conflictions are, because I never wanted to taint my daughter from her not having the gift of his presence, knowing what it felt like at one point. So maybe your mom has questioned, and she just hasn't shared that with you because that's her personal burden to bear. And as a parent, I would like to think that maybe that has something to do with it, and certainly doesn't answer why, but it might help answer why she is the way she is. And that should make you love her even more. That's my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I've had this conversation with my mom, and she's always come back clean and strong in her faith. And my 14-year-old daughter now is just kind of getting into it, and she's going to youth groups and things like that. I've never denied it from either one of my children. If they want to go, they can go.
Mm-hmm.
Just not something that I've ever, I guess, faithfully participated in. I've gone with friends several times, several denominations. My best friend growing up was Catholic. Went to his things. Brothers in the Army, I've gone to their churches. I've been to several. But yeah, I mean, my mom is just freaking rock solid in her faith with all the things that have gone on in her life.
Yeah.
And
Paul, I want to invite you this Sunday to join me, and I'll do it with you. We can just live stream it. I can stay here, but brbible.org, and maybe that's what we do on Sundays. Maybe I stream it, and but I would love for you to join us and dude, I'm telling you, they talk about the mustard seed of faith. Just give it a shot. See what happens. You know what? You never know. You just might strike it rich, man. And it's a good feeling.
And one other comment, Paul, is just, thinking about your mom, it goes back to the comment we made about God gives the grace people need for the circumstances that they have. God has clearly given your mother the grace she needed for the suffering that she has gone through. And we can't explain it, and we don't get it. But he gives it to his own. Yeah. But I will promise you, I'll tell you one of the prayers that your mother has for you. And her prayer is that you know this same God that loves you like she does. I know that's her prayer for you, and that's my prayer for you as well.
I love this show. Paul, I gotta let you go. I gotta let this man get to bed. He's a man of God, which means if he's not in bed by 9:30, we're all in trouble. So I gotta let you go, buddy.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, again, thank you, Pastor, for coming and spending time with us. We all appreciate it, and it was a fantastic show. Thanks, Matt and Olivia.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you,
Paul.
Paul. Thank
guys.
you, buddy. All right,
Listen. Donation.
Yeah, go do
in.
this real quick, and then I got to wrap it.
I got one.
I know you do. I know you do.
Right.
Otto Acituno, my good friend who gave me this Bible here that sat and collected dust for years. And thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. He said he likes the pastor's visit. He's a good. I told you he was a good dude. Liv, go ahead.
So we have a tradition here on our show for every
come
guest.
on.
Every
I didn't cuss.
guest has got to answer this question.
So weak.
No, it's not. It's a tradition.
Whatever.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Oh, love it.
Oh, yes, he's on he's on yes, high five.
Man, out of all the guests, dude, like we've had 9 on and all of them have been with me.
My side, yep.
Whatever. Fascist. Listen, I've got. Can we just take about 3 or 4 more minutes? Would you be okay, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Right in front of you, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I want you to go grab it, and I do want that last donation put in, please, Liv. The one that for $1, and I want to say something about it after this.
Okay.
So, you know what? Put it in real quick. I'm going to do that while he's getting his glasses on.
Okay.
This is a donation that is probably my favorite of the night. Is from a gentleman only known as Balls.
He actually donated like 5 times, $1 each.
And I want to tell you something, man.
So I'll put all 5 in.
Just put it all at once.
Yep.
And what did he say? What's the message? The God bless, right?
One says Sophia.
No, just get to the God bless one. That's it. It doesn't. At the end of it, he just said, "God bless you all." And I will tell you
bless
this.
Y'all right there, yeah.
Bless you all. I will tell you blessings to you too. And I don't dislike you. This is a performance, man. When you call in and you troll, I just give it right back to you because I figure that's the relationship you want. I'm a garbage in, garbage out type of guy. But if you want to have a meaningful conversation and you want to, I'm open to that. Thank you for your donation. That means the world to me. I'll unblock you. Don't worry about it. Just give me till tomorrow. Pastor, what you've got is, let's see, you've got a hat over there.
Yes, I saw that.
That is the Don't Unfriend Me hat. I expect to see that in church on Sunday. And I figured you would get a hat. And then we gave you a book, which is from a good friend of mine.
I saw that.
A scholar. It's called The Woke Mind Viruses. And it's a beautiful book. I mean, it's a piece of history. And it is an incredible account for socialist ideology that's come through since the Age of Enlightenment and beyond. It's a very, very interesting book, and we wanted you to have it because he's just a good friend of mine, and any chance I can plug his book. The other books, this is actually from Percival Flag Company, and it's custom made, and we offer these called the Documents of Freedom, and it has the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration, and it's from the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian. Those books, we have a special relationship that when I started the show, I wanted to build one with them, and we wanted you to have it, and they're pocket size, and they're fantastic, and we wanted to give you that gift.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And of course, cookies, since both you and Karen like cookies.
Oh, I love that is a weakness.
Chocolate chip, no raisins.
Even better.
And then the last thing is we wanted to tell you also is that the donations tonight are going to be rounded up to 500. And we're going to be giving those to the church. So that is from us. We wanted to say thank you, and we wanted to give back a little bit, and I think the listeners wanted to give back as well. So we'll be making a donation to the church as well. And on the behalf of the Dumb Show and the listeners here, we wanted to say thank you for being here tonight. We thoroughly enjoyed it for sure.
Oh, well, Matt, pleasure was all mine. I really did enjoy it. And this was great. This was great. First podcast, in my opinion, loved it.
That's great. That's all that matters. We're really happy that you enjoyed it. We'll have to do it again. I know Chuck is going to come out and we're going to have an episode on cancer and how he's dealt with that. We would love for you to participate. Liv, parting thoughts for you?
It was great to have you here. Really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so thank you for coming on.
Yeah. And thank you for the gift. As I mentioned before, not necessary at all. But that'll go to God's church, go to his work. That's great.
That's what it's designed for. Plus, we need you to bless our house because we have some noises in the attic that are really, I'm just kidding. No, thank you everybody for showing. Hey, Liv, what's going on tomorrow?
I think Leroy is back on tomorrow with you.
Yeah, Leroy and I at 7:00. We will be on. We are going to cover some of the things we weren't able to talk about tonight. We've got a big election show in less than 6 days. We'll be taking you through the election like we have over the last 5 years, and we will put our 99.9% accuracy rating on our predictions. So you're going to want to be here tomorrow for that. For Leroy and I will go into it. Pastor Jack, once again, brbible.org, and you can go there. And a lot of people said, I wish I lived closer. You know what's great? You can. By going to brbible.org, you can watch it. It's live streamed. The service is live streamed, and they have past streams so you can get caught up. Please go over to there and see how you can go ahead and participate. Pastor Jack, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you guys tomorrow. God bless.
Thanks. Night, y'all.
Good night.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.